Hello. Hello. Haven't done a stream in a few weeks, but today we're going to do a little bit of a tactical review on Chelsea to cover pretty much between the international breaks. What we haven't covered yet, of course, I've covered every game on the channel separately. So if you want specific game analysis, go to those videos separately. Let's have a look at the chat, see what is going on. Say hello. What's good, Money Mike? Hello, Gecko. Hope you're well. Hello. Oh, I don't want to say Abdullah Abdullah. I said your name right there. Welcome. Let me know if you're in the chat. Oh, I just fell. Let me know if you're in the chat so I can get things going. I'll have give it a few seconds just to make sure all is working and all is good. Plan for today is essentially going to be, we'll just talk about a few different sort of tactical tweaks that we've made. Want to touch on Gusto a little bit because I think there's a lot to be said. And then I can sort of answer some tactical questions as well. We can talk about the Enzo and Lavia situation. I think that's another one to sort of touch on a little bit quite keenly. And then I guess we can also touch on the wing situation because quite a few people want to see a different wing pairing. Some people want to keep it the same, so we'll go from there. I think they're the three sort of tactical discussions we will have because I think they're the three biggest ones to have. We'll also reel off a few stats from this point in the season. So all of that today. And as I said, just keep your questions coming because then we can get to just all the tactical questions. We can get through them. And then this video can be somewhere for people to go between this international break and say the next international break. And every sort of little tactical discussion that we need to have between those two is right in here as a video, as this will be uploaded as a video straight after. So that's perfect. Who'd be your pick for goalkeeper if Sanchez doesn't improve? I like Chevalier from Lille. I said that last summer. Didn't happen, of course. Jorgensen came in instead, who I had some some sort of positives on, some negatives on. Still remain the same with Jorgensen. I don't mind the fee for what he is, and I think he's got some really high qualities. I do think though he needs to become the number one to sort of iron out those kinks. So it's going to be interesting to see how long or how little time he gets to do that as a first team goalkeeper, because otherwise I don't think it's going to happen or don't think it's going to come for him. But we'll see. We went for the stream for so long. Thank you very much, George. And by the way, drop a like if you haven't already, because it will help push the stream out to as many people as possible. We've already got 130 people in here, so that is brilliant. So can we keep that going? Keep that number rising. Keep those likes rising every time people join the stream. Drop a like, please. What we do wanted to ask, if you had to pick a centre back for us to buy, would it be Diomande or Araujo? For me, it's Diomande. People, if they've followed me long enough on Twitter, on here, on all platforms, I've waxed lyrical about Diomande. I did a lot of work on him. Whilst I was still studying at uni, I was doing a lot of sort of sporting work, which is why I've got quite a lot. I know quite a bit about Amorim, and I've done quite a lot of Amorim work, and I've done a lot about Diomande, and I've done a lot about Gyökeres, and I know about all these players because I've watched a lot of them and done a lot of work on them. Diomande is one of my favourite centre-back profiles and one of my favourite sort of gem centre-backs in the world. So for sure, he'd be my number one. Araujo's right up there, though. He's on the list. I have Araujo ahead of Antonio Silva. A lot of people don't. I rate quite a few centre-backs in Portugal ahead of Antonio Silva. I still think he's good. I don't dislike him. But I do like quite a few ahead of him, and Diomande and Araujo are two of them. Isn't Chevalier not amazing on the ball? No, for me, he's good enough on the ball. I don't think it's not his primary weapon, but he's good enough in circuit passing. He's better than, say, a Petrovic in circuit passing, but he's also a better shot stopper than, say, Sanchez and Petrovic and Jorgensen. For me, Chevalier would have been a brilliant summer signing, but I understand it. Where would you rank Andre Santos out of Casado, Lavia, Enzo, Ugachukwu? It's tough. I mean, put it this way, I don't want to rate them all because I think they all bring different things individually. But if I was to say one of Ugachukwu or Santos have to stay around the squad next year, as much as I understand the need for the physical presence, I think with Vega in the squad, I think you keep Andre Santos around and look for another loan for Ugachukwu if you can only keep one of the two in the squad. That'd be my decision. I think Maresca is trying to find balance with the squad. Then later on, he might play Felix or Nkunku together with Palmer. We'll talk about that today because I think... Let's talk about that now. Let's get into that bit first. because a lot of people, and if you haven't watched it already, I really recommend it. I think the first video you should go and watch after this video is my fullbacks video. It should be 2 or 3 videos back. Really recommend it because somebody said it here in the chat with this. I get why he does it, but Enzo needs to stop with this Gusto half space gimmick. I completely disagree. I think Gusto's been brilliant in there, and I put a tweet out about it the other day. I think the problem that we're starting to see now with Gusto in this hole is he's becoming victim of people almost not knowing what to rate him for in a game. Everybody was used to. I'm not saying Manuel would say here, but look, just for example, Gusto was overlapping from deep, providing late width to the team, and then he was arriving in this area to put the ball into the box. 2 things that he's good at, because he's an athlete, he can get up and down, so he was really good at doing that. He was still getting into his defensive positions to go 1v1 defensively as well, so you were getting both those sides out of him. The game suited him as well under Poch because it was back and forth. I still think he's more than enough suited to positional play because he's so technically gifted, but he's an athlete as well, right? So you were seeing that sort of side of him in this role, putting balls into the box, and he improved at putting balls into the box because of this, because he was arriving on the last man. What would happen in Maresca's system is he has to provide the width and not arrive in the width because he has to pin the fullback in, otherwise the whole positional play sort of falls apart. So the 2 sort of issues I have with this are, firstly, is if Palmer started on the right, Felix started in the team, like this. Gusto is arriving, or Reece arriving in this width. But as I said, in this system, like with this sort of back 5, you've got the 5 sort of at the base, setting up from build up. You need these wingers high and wide. If anything, they're the high and wide players, and then these are the guys that are sort of dropping in deep to form that pentagon that we spoke about in the middle of the pitch. These are your outlet guys. That is a horrible box, but they're your outlet guys. Now what you have is you have a very stretched line between the 2, and that's Gusto's position to recover to. And Palmer's now the one who's a bit closer in proximity to recover, but he's less likely to recover than Gusto. So already you've got where people are thinking, oh, but Gusto inside, he doesn't make sense to be in there. But from a counter-pressing perspective, it does make sense to have him in there because he's quicker to the action and he's an athlete to be able to do that. And we've been better at setting up those counter-pressing nets to sustain possession and also win the ball back quicker. That's something we've been better at this season. And that's why we've sustained better territory in the opposition half in a lot of games this year. Because Gusto's been really good in this centre of the pitch role, whether it's as the DM or as the number 8. So that's one thing, okay? The other thing is, like I said, is if he's then sustaining the width and he's high up and the ball does come to him, often there's going to be a fullback. Blue is not the colour to use there because it's the same. Fullback's going to be here. So instead of arriving to put the ball in the box, he's now going to find himself in 1v1 scenarios. Gusto is not a 1v1 player. He's good enough, and I actually do think he can, but his numbers don't suggest it. The eye test is all I'm going off of in the sense of I think he could beat his man for pace and put a ball into the box, but he's not got that same sort of drive and winger-like-esque ability to go 1v1 6, 7, 8 times a game. So that's another issue that you're falling into with this. Now, it's not to say situationally it can't work, because what you can do is obviously you can sort of have it where if Palmer does start on the right, Palmer can be not involved in play, right? So to begin with, the first phase of play, Palmer can pin the fullback. And this can work if Palmer moves inside just at the right time and Gusto arrives, and then you have that front 5. But if you're going to, that's more so against teams that are going to press you higher and not sit back in low blocks. If you're going to sit back in a low block, you're gonna struggle because, like I said, these rotations are going to take. They're going to be too few and far between, and teams aren't going to press you. So you're going to struggle to break teams down doing that. So that's my issue with it. Gusto has been really good in the 8 for me because he maybe, like going back to the point I was on before, maybe he's not. Gotta pull this back to where it was. Where are we? Maybe he's arriving in, and he should have scored goals. And I think that there was one game, which was the game he got subbed off in? Was it Man U? I think it was Man U. In that game, his technical quality was poor, right? And he did have a bad day. And I agreed with the sub at the time because I did think he had a bad day and I think the quality was off. But I think he's been really good in here in terms of functionality of the team. He's really good at sort of opening up angles to receive the ball. Skills that people see as an easy skill because, like they see Gusto's the free man now, and they think, oh, that's not because Gusto's good at this. This is because teams don't want to mark him. But Gusto's good at opening up his body and making sure that he's on for a pass. Gusto's got that know how to do that. He's also good at driving the ball forward. Like I said, he's an athlete to recover. He can make underlapping and overlapping runs, something you've seen with Madueke. Madueke often, quite a few times, some of our best chances have come when Madueke holds the ball and Gusto comes bombing round for Madueke to just put a little pass into here. And then again, Gusto's arriving to put the ball in rather than having to beat the man himself. So I think what you get with Gusto in here is a lot of sort of excellence, really. And I do think all it takes is 1 or 2 goals from Gusto or a goal and assist. In say in the next 3 games, Gusto scores a goal and he gets 1 assist in 3 games. So that's not even a goal contribution every game, but even just that small narrative, even just 1 goal in 3 games, I genuinely think the narrative completely changes around Gusto. And that's what I mean. Don't you think Gusto as the 8 isn't bringing enough on-ball quality though? I think there's been games where he hasn't, but at the same time, I do just think like you're going to lose that somewhere because then if you start playing Gusto there and Palmer here, then instead of saying that we're missing some on-ball quality on the 8, for me, we're missing some 1v1 threat out wide. So instead of missing on-ball number 8 quality, we're missing 1v1 quality out wide. And there's going to be give and take with everything. And that's why I think everything comes down to the exact game plan on the day. What's up, Ivan? My favourite analyst at the Chelsea, my brother. Thank you very much, up the Chelsea. And please do drop a like. Let's have a really quick refresh before we talk about what should we go back to? We'll leave it in this for now. We'll speak about maybe Enzo. We're on 16 likes, smashing it. We've got 30 people in the YouTube stream. So that the like button should be at least 30. I'm going to check that back in 2 minutes. That should be at least 30. And we've got 166 on Twitter. So if you are on Twitter, please just drop over really quickly to the YouTube, drop a like, and then go back to watch it on Twitter if that's where you prefer to watch it. Vice versa. You can continue watching it on YouTube if not. Gusto's been great, just had a few poor final execution moments and people pile on him for that. Yeah, and that's what I mean, Ninja. I think it can really change if 1 or 2 things sort of tweak. Like 1 goal in the next 3 games, and I think that whole narrative begins to spin. And like I said, I really like him for off-ball reasons in this hole as a counter presser, and I think that's a lot. Like that's not something that the general public will pick up on, and it's not really even something that is mentioned in sort of mainstream media commentary unless you're watching Monday Night Football, and even then it's very rarely used. Sort of how many Monday Night Football segments has there been on Chelsea this season, and especially since Gusto's been used as an advanced midfielder, I don't think there's been one. So that's the only real mainstream media places that are going to be talking about this. I don't see the reason why, because when you have Enzo, Carney, KDH, Felix and Kunku, there's no need for Gusto. So then who's right back then, CFC King, in this sense? Who's right back? If you're saying we don't need Gusto because we have Felix or Nkunku, whoever, now where's your right back out of possession? When it falls back into the back 4, where's your right back gone? That's the point of these platforming fullbacks. So, like I say, I seriously do like that. The video I made on fullbacks, I think, is a very important one to watch. To help. Personally, I think Gusto can improve in this role if he can have some GA, but his aerial game is a bit concerning. I don't have an issue with his aerial game. I mean, he missed a header. I think I'm assuming that's what this is coming from. But defensively, his aerial game's fine. He's not like that's not the type of player he is. So he's never going to be elite at it. But I have no issues with it. We'll talk about Enzo in a sec. Pardon me. Gusto hasn't been good in counter pressing. He absolutely has, because the whole reason that even against Palace, if you look at it for that reason, the whole reason Gusto was pushed behind the Palace sort of line, if you go back quite a few games, was so that Gusto can defend backwards, whilst the ones facing it was Casado dropping into the back 4 can defend forwards to compress the ball like this and counter press on the ball. Gusto's an athlete. That's exactly what he's in there for. So yeah, I definitely disagree with that. Definitely disagree with that. What else? What else? Do you think Gusto's final ball can improve massively? Yeah, I do. I do. But I also don't think we've seen like as much, because I do genuinely think. What was I going to say? I do think he's got the quality. I don't think it's a thing where he doesn't have the quality to do it. I just think that he's had a few poor games this season. Last season, I said it. I think Gusto has the capacity to play as a number 10. I do genuinely think he is that good of a footballer, even if just a nominal number 10. But obviously, he would never do that. But the point being is he's got the qualities for it. Don't you think our attacks? Oh yeah, definitely, Reno, definitely. I've said, yeah, we just spoke about this, Dino. You lose so much out wide. You lose 1v1 threat with Gusto staying in there. You lose 1v1 threat. You lose an ability to pin a fullback. You widen up that gap so that Palmer now has to counter press in this hole, and something he's not as good at. Um, I understand like people just want it to go back to, because of they want to see Gusto attacking the ball and arriving and crossing into the box. Even then, we don't even have anyone in the box to finish those crosses. So I don't even understand why people are so sort of evident to really, really want to see it. And I get it's because they want these two number 10s, two creative 10s in here, but teams will just funnel you one way or another. Like, because Gusto's the spare man at the minute in this system, it doesn't mean that and he won't be in the next. It's how teams defend you, it changes. Don't you think our attack? Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was saying. I definitely think we need another striker alongside Jackson to offer something different. So 100%, I agree that we miss a little bit of aerial presence in the attack for sure. Gusto's been great in transition in the defensive phase. The entirety of the fan base frustrated with him. Yeah, 100% money Mikes. On ball moments, yeah. I have no issues with Gusto in the 8, but in games we need to win right now to get top 5. Prefer others. We can't experiment during the season. Again, though, I just don't get who, because Gusto isn't playing in the 8 from the start. He's playing as a right back, and then he's going into the 8. So that makes complete sense to me, because you can't take Gusto out for Felix, because then you don't have a right back. So I understand, like, and I genuinely think this system is far more sustainable and gets the best out of players more than if you do it the other way around. And in terms of Maresca's system, I think that works better. And I thought that from the get go. I only want to see the overlapping right winger or right wing back on specific occasions. Personally, I don't want it to become the norm, because 1v1 wingers are so important in the modern era for chance creation. We have to play Gusto and Felix and Kunku. We should drop Lavia and Gusto. Yeah, so that's the argument, isn't it? Is that obviously when Lavia doesn't play, so this is a good chance to move on to Enzo, isn't it? Because if Enzo is playing instead of Lavia, which is something I think we might see against Leicester, what you can now have is technically Gusto playing deeper, although I like Enzo being deeper, but what people probably want to see, or at least, is you can see a little bit of a sort of a, what's the word? Lopsided. So you can have Enzo a little bit deeper. He sort of creates in this pocket, drops into the pocket to create, sort of makes it a 3 in midfield at times between these three. And then he also moves up into the half space and creates that same box here. And now you still have the 1v1 for out wide. You technically have two better quality pocket players, if that's what people were saying. The issue with Gusto. Again, my main issue with this, I still like it, but I still think you lose a lot of counter pressing quality in this middle of the park here. I don't think either one of these are good counter pressers converging backwards on the ball. I think Enzo is a good duelist going side to side, not vertically, which means that I do think that it obviously leaves you a little bit more open in terms of counter pressing. But Kukurea has a lot to make up for in that, so that's a good sort of sign to have him in the squad there as well. Do you think he'll continue to see? Yeah, and this is what I mean, Kelvin. I don't think he will. I think he'll drop Gusto deeper. Although I'd like to see it sort of mixed. I would love to see it where, like, on some possessions it's like this, and then on some possessions the rotations are almost sort of like this. So you see Gusto move up, you see Palmer move up, you see Enzo dropping in deep, and you see Casado just move over a bit. And it's still the box, but it's just a rotation of the box. So, don't want to do that. But yeah, I think you'd be more like to see this from the jump, at least. Do you think Sancho and Neto should be our wing pair, or are you still on Madueke train? Personally, think he's. I'm not against Madueke not starting the next game. I still think Madueke is exceptionally important. So in terms of on the Madueke train, I think when Esteval joins, I think you got a completely different issue. But I think right now Madueke just does so much for the team on both ends of the ball. Whether he's getting the Lord like the praise for it or not, I still think he's very important. But I wouldn't be against Leicester. I would like to see Neto on the right, drop Madueke for a game, bring in either Mudryk or Sancho. Honestly, if Lavia's not fit for the Leicester game, what does our midfield look like? Is it as simple as Enzo steps in, or do we finally see Palmer and Felix against a lower opposition side? I'll speak about this in a minute, Pocket Aces, because at the end of this, I'll quickly go into what I think we could line up with at the weekend, because I do have a feeling, and I do want to speak about Yao Felix, because got some interesting things I think about him at the minute, and I really like Felix, and I think that his level has gone. I think he's gone up a level this season in terms of one particular attribute. Let's take a sip of that. Absolutely hate the discourse around Gusto. Me and you both, Victor. Gusto is an 8. Play Palmer on the right, please. Yeah, I'd like to say I disagree, because I just think moving Palmer, and that's another thing I really don't understand with a lot of like the discourse. Palmer being on the right, people do realise that the reason he's like being man marked isn't because he's on the left. Like if Palmer's on the right, the only difference will be he'll get man marked on the right, and the left pocket will be the one that's open. Teams that are man marking him, they're not man marking the space that he's in. So moving Palmer over to the right is not going to gain anything in that sense. He can make his own separation better from this side. So in this sense, you can see a little bit better from him. But also when we've seen him on the left, we haven't seen him with Enzo. So he's having to come deeper, trap himself with less range of motion because he's on his weaker foot when he's receiving the ball. And then rather than receiving it further up on the half turn, because Enzo's the one providing him with the pass, if that makes any sense. Where are we? Could you do a brief scout report on Liam Delap and whether he would fit the box striker profile? I've been thinking. I did a written profile on Liam Delap the other day. I was thinking for a video at some point, maybe in a week or two, would people be interested in a video of like the new wave of box striker profiles? So what I would probably do in that is probably not talk about Gyökeres, probably not talk about Victor Osimhen, probably not talk about Sesko, because these are strikers I've spoken about before. Probably not talk about Omar Odion either. But instead I'll talk about Liam Delap, and I'll throw in a few other people that I've been watching for that role. Would people be interested in that? Pardon me. Not sure if you've been watching Liverpool games, but every time they attack, they have about 6 players in the box, more than the opposition. I hope we can do that soon. I've watched quite a bit of Liverpool, yeah. Yeah, and that's risk reward. So I think in some games, like say against Leicester, I think that's definitely something you want to do. You want to hurl at the box, and you want to trust that you can play really high up and trap teams in this sort of 60 percentile of the pitch. I think it's just dependent on sort of opposition and what they bring to the table. So like even against like a West Ham, for example, they've got someone like Kudus who can really hurt you in transition. So you've got to be careful of like overcommitting. But if you're against a team that you don't think can hurt you, and especially because Leicester, I don't think have got Fatowu this weekend. Unfortunately, I think he might be injured. Unfortunately for him, but that loses a little bit of their sort of transition sort of power and speed. So by doing that, obviously, that's better for Chelsea. Like in terms of Chelsea can sort of defend a little bit higher up because there's less threat over the top. Not to say they don't have others. What do you think about subbing in Gia instead of Nkunku for box presence in losing or drawing situation? I wouldn't be against seeing it, but I don't think Gia's clearly underdeveloped in all phases of his play, and I think his box presence is one of them because I think he's got the body and the capability for it, and he is a bit of a nuisance, but a bit like Jackson. I don't think he really knows how to use it. Jackson's getting better at using his body, but he's just not got the same sort of aerial presence. Gia, I think, is still getting used to that sort of how to use it. But I'm all for seeing more of Gia. Is there any chance Reece can occupy the 8-10 and drop into the pivot instead of him dropping to the right back position? Absolutely. I think, and we saw it for 10 minutes against Arsenal, I think the next progression for Reece is as soon as he feels fit enough to do it, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of Reece in these sort of zones, which is going to be perfect for him. But it's just providing he is fit enough to do it. Bench Nani play Neto right wing, Sancho left wing. For the next game, absolutely agree. Enzo was insane for Argentina because he was facing play. Enzo 8, yeah, 100%. 100%. When he can dictate play and he can get 100 plus touches, I tweeted about it as well. When he gets 100 plus touches, that's the best version of Enzo you're going to get. Best version. He can orchestrate. I think Madueke slows down the teams for tactical progression. Yes, he has good defensive work off the ball, but Neto can do that perfectly while bringing more energy and linking up better with gusto. I think Madueke for me is just a systematic player. He does what's asked of him. In terms of tactical evolution or like progression, I agree. I think the next step, whenever it's taken, which for me is when Esteval joins, because I think Esteval gives you something really rare in the sense that he can do both 1v1 threat and cutting inside pretty much at the same level. And people say, yes, Palmer can do both. Palmer's able to do the 1v1 thing, but you don't want to take him away from the centre. He's also not sort of like explosive enough. Esteval can literally do both of these things at 100%. 100% ability to do that. So I think Palmer and Esteval, when that's a thing, is scarily good. And I think that's when the next tactical evolution comes from this Chelsea team. Until then, I'm more than happy with the share of minutes that Madueke gets and how he does it. This is why I didn't want Maresca. My first choice was always Ruben, who's at United now. You prefer three at the back? Wow, that's interesting. I think it worked for certain teams. I think it's going to help United for sure. But I'm very happy we got Maresca. Very. Who would be the best option to be out of Duran, Osimhen, Sesko, Gyökeres, Delap? All of them bring different things. I still, to this day, I think Gyökeres is one of the best, if not, he's probably the best striker in the world right now on form. I think Gyökeres, of those five, though, is the most similar to Jackson. So if you want a complete different type, I think going somewhere else is better. I'd even throw Omarodian in with that list. So it's tough. It's really tough. I couldn't pick. I don't think I could pick. I think if I was going for the best value for money from that group, I'd say Sesko. I think Sesko might be the most exciting overall profile of the lot. People know my affinity to Osimhen, though. I would love to see him join still. Duran, I think the time's passed for Duran. I think that the value you'd now be paying for Duran would be overpaying. I wouldn't go for Duran in the region of 50, 60. So I'd probably leave him alone as highly as I rate him and as much as I wanted him this summer. I think the gate and the window for him has sort of passed. So yeah, be very interested in a video about the new wave of box strikers. Cool. I'll have a little look for that. I'll have a little look. I've got quite a few names I'm tracking at the minute, so I could definitely make that. If we're not going to utilise Enzo in a Cruz role, there's no point in playing him. Yeah, I do want, when he plays, that's absolutely where I want him to be. Osimhen really should be signed, instead of Gyökeres, because he doesn't need space to be effective and occupy centre-backs very well. It just frees up more space for the eights and wingers. He definitely gives you the exact profile Chelsea need. That is one thing I will say for Osimhen. He is exactly the profile Chelsea want or need. Agahawa, not Omarodian. Do you know what? Omarodian I like a lot. We don't get the hate that Enzo, he helps the attack. He helps the way we attack and score goals, yeah, for sure. Do you think that if we bring in a striker this January, we could play Jackson on the left but have him drop into the box? Do I think he's capable of it? Yes. Do I think it's going to work in this system? And do I think that we've already got wingers that we don't need to push Jackson out wide? I don't think so. So I don't think so. I think it would be a case of if we did sign one in January, it'd be a case of sharing minutes. Some games suit Jackson a bit better to run the channels, running behind and just be a bit of a workhorse and link play. Some games suit a box striker a bit more. And then vice versa, off the bench, they can both impact games in different ways. So that would be another sort of key thing. Did I miss your thoughts on how we might set up against Leicester? No, Kelvin. We're going to get into that in a second. 34 minutes into this. Let me have a quick refresh to see if we've got 44 people watching in the YouTube. This must be 29. Can we get this to at least 40? We got 11 off. And then I'm good. Right, so here's what we're going to set. We're going to set 40 for now. I'm going to get the Leicester team done. The team that I think we might see against Leicester. Then I'm going to come back onto here. And then we're going to try and aim for 50 before the stream closes out. Okay, that's going to be the aim. Everybody on Twitter, do your bit. Please drop over as well. Leave a comment, leave a sub, leave a like, everything you can. Honestly, how are we not getting the best out of Enzo? Because for Argentina, he's so important and they don't play the same when he's out. Because he is the guy for them and he's the sort of orchestrator. I think I still would love to see how we play like this with Caicedo, because Caicedo's ground covering capabilities to do at all angles is perfect. Casado's been so good though that it just isn't worth changing yet. But at some point or another, this is what I would love to see it at some point or another. I don't think we're going to, but I would like to see it. That's what I said in the preseason as well. What do you think about Enzo to Real Madrid? I personally think he'll cook with Tchouaméni covering his weaknesses. I don't want him to go because I really like Enzo, but I think Real Madrid is literally like the perfect move for him to just take over that Cruz role and just let him be exactly what he's meant to be. So yeah, I think he'd absolutely be unbelievable there. Do you think Esteval can have an instant impact that you were talking about at the Prem if he arrived in the league in the summer? I do. Not sure what level. Like when you say instant impact, I'm not saying like, oh, he's going to absolutely blow up, like he's going to go crazy. But I do think he can definitely have an instant impact and be in that side and be a very, very worthy part of that side for sure. We're sacrificing Enzo for Palmer and getting worse out of both players because Palmer is having to do more from deep. Makes no sense. Yeah, and like, this is where it's going to tell a lot against Leicester. I think this next run of games, I sort of said it. Villa and Tottenham, the two of the games in the next 4 or 5. For me, those games you do start Lavia and Casado because you've got ground eaters for both of those teams that you need to win. You need to hoover up those second balls in here. And by having Lavia and Casado in there, you basically give yourself the biggest chance possible at hoovering up those second balls. So Anana for Villa. And then for Tottenham, you've just got a whole host of players that work at maximum tenacity and maximum intensity. So for me, Tottenham and Villa, you start Lavia and Casado. Every other game in the Prem, you start Enzo and Casado. I think that for me. But the problem with this is as well is Lavia is not in the Conference League team. So in terms of juggling minutes, I did tweet about it, how you could do it so that everybody gets a similar amount of minutes. But it's an interesting one. Casado is way better defending the wide right side, not left. Yeah, I agree with that. Which he does with Lavia, but with how we've got it on screen right now, it would be Gusto, of course, because he'd be returning there. How do you see Paez' role in this system? Can he get some minutes? I think he might go on loan next year. I think his role is in this sort of like either this role. It's one of the pocket players for sure for Paez, but I do think I'd like him to get a Strasbourg loan next year. And honestly, since Enzo's been out of the team, we haven't mid-created as much. Yeah, it's true. I feel like a midfielder, Casado and Santos, Enzo could flourish. But with the amount of ANs we have, it could never be a consistent thing we see. Yeah, again, in certain games, I still think Casado, Lavia, and Enzo, like it worked against City. We played really well against City first game of the season. It didn't work in terms of result, but in terms of quality of performance, I thought we were really good for that first game of the season against City. Created chances. I think on another day that could be a different result. So I think again, there's capacity for that to work on one-off occasions, and give you a little bit more sort of impact and not impact, compactness in the middle of the park. Do you think we can ever see Carney starting the pivot? I'd love him to start, but I don't even want to talk about Carney at the minute because I rate him so highly, and I'm just so sort of I've just accepted that he's probably going to leave. When I said impact, I meant for the team to take that next tactical evolution. Yeah, I think that will start next season for sure. Paez probably needs that Strasbourg loan. Yeah, coming off that injury, a bit of momentum. I agree. He didn't start for Ecuador in either of the 2 games either. Much of the rhetoric about Gusto on the rise because our goal scoring has cooled down slightly and Palmer is being marked effectively. Any insights on what we can do to score more? Best Chelsea content creator at the moment. Thank you very much, Adam Fancourt. That is a Francourt, not Fancourt. That's really really nice praise to hear. Thank you very much. Right. In terms of scoring more goals, I mean, I genuinely do think that everything else we're doing at the minute is really quite good. I think the main thing in terms of scoring more goals and where we do need to improve is just changing the game state from draw to win. So if it's 0-0, 1-1, I think getting that goal that puts us ahead so that then these gaps start to open up far more and you can start to stretch the pitch in this area. You can start to stretch the pitch into their 5 lanes, and that's when we're at our best. But I think scoring to begin with, I think the place where you really need to sort of look at it is scoring more goals from set pieces to open up that game state, something Arsenal became very good at, and scoring more goals from, again, putting balls into the box and being more effective with our wing play in terms of getting into the box, because I think everything else positionally is fine. So, and that's something Jackson isn't exactly in there for. So that's why a box striker is much of what I think helps to bring that score out. But as well, Palmer's, even in the space that he has found, because people saying he's been marked effectively, which he is. But in the last few games, he's had chances, he just hasn't scored, and it's going to happen. Palmer's not always going to bail you out. So once Palmer returns and he has a better off game, he might score 2 again, and people will think all of a sudden there's no goal scoring issues. So it's all sort of hit and miss, and I think every game week there'll be a different narrative. But I think the best thing to do is to sort of look at it as a whole, rather than every single game. Is it me, or just me, or does KDH look nothing like he was at Leicester? Plays safe and doesn't drive the ball. He doesn't drive the ball as much, but again, I think he's in that sort of capacity now of trying to break into the squad. So I think he's trying to be a little bit more safe, and he's doing it a little bit more in the Conference League games. He was okay the last game. Who was it? Panathinaikos? No. Who was the last game against? Noah. He's okay in that game, but then most people were. We had a similar profile of Angelo Gabriel, but it's disappointing that they got rid of him. Yeah, that is true in terms of a player that can do both. That I said like Esteval, so that is true. Thoughts on Araujo from Benfica? Isn't a massive change that can make our defence better, but tactically he can really change things for us? Yeah, very good for on-ball reasons. Diamonde slightly ahead for out-of-possession reasons for me. But on-ball reasons, it makes it far easier as well to sometimes have Cole shift over here, because then it would be Araujo in the middle who has a better sort of disguise of pass going both ways from the central centre-back role, something that I'm not overly keen on Fofana. I'd prefer Fofana to be in this position so that he can drive with the ball and put sort of in-swung passes into there. That's sort of the limit that I like Fofana to work at. That's where I think he's at his best. Who's been brilliant lately, by the way. Fofana's been so good the last few games. Between Santos and Lukaku, who do I think cracking into the first team? Santos, I think he's unbelievable. So for sure. Best Chelsea content creator at the moment. Keep it up, mate. I've hit the like already. And everybody else, like Adam, should do so as well. Let's have a quick check. How many are we at? How many? 33. We got 46 watching. That has to hit at least 40. I'm going to refresh in 30 seconds. If you haven't hit the like button already, please do hit it, because it helps the stream. It helps me to do more of these. It helps just with everything, growing the channel. This is something I'm trying to do alongside other things at the minute, other projects. So every little bit of support we can get does help me a lot. Right, let's really actually fresh quick. 36, nice. Keep them coming. A couple more for the 40, and then we'll try and push for 50 by the end of the stream. Go for another maybe 15 minutes. Thoughts on Patrick Dorgu in that half space inverting from left back? How much better would he perform in the same role as Gusto? Better. Again, that's a great one, by the way, because Patrick Dorgu pretty much gives you exactly the whole thing I was talking about. And let's put this back now so we can just talk about it how we was talking about it a minute ago. With Gusto in here. Because Dorgu, athletically brilliant. So what he does offer you is much like Gusto, converging backwards and into these central areas and winning the ball back when it breaks. Being one of those counter-pressing hubs in the middle of the park. That's something Dorgu can be very well. Attacking-wise and technically-wise, I think Gusto, technically on the ball, is better than Dorgu. So if you're talking about somebody who can occupy tight pocket spaces, Gusto offers you, if anything, a little bit more. Now, what Dorgu maybe offers a little bit more is, again, that athleticism and like that raw sort of like almost strength and burst. So he can almost get round, say, a Neto and almost provide what Gusto's done, but maybe to a more sort of penetrative degree in terms of going round and in to this sort of area. But in terms of like much more than Gusto, I think it would be the exact same role. Really good counter pressing wise, can facilitate really well for others, but might sometimes lack that final ball, and that's okay because you're getting enough elsewhere. So that's okay. You're going to have to give one thing up. And again, Gusto on a good day is far, like you don't even have to give that up because he is good enough. I think he can replicate those long range passes that James was making to our touchline right winger. I'm assuming you're talking to James because I'm not sure which one that's about. Need to start scoring first in big games. Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's great that 1-0 down is no longer, 100%. 100%. That's what I mean about changing that game state. Need a Canate type defender next to Saliba, a box presence. And and that is I mean, I think Fofana is that. I just think I really like this partnership that's sort of building between Fofana. My main issue is if Fofana gets injured, I would like. That's why I'm really keenly watching Fofana. If he stays okay, then I'm fine. If not, I'd be going all out for Diomande to be that guy. Is it just me, or did it feel like Fofana was actually quality at passing in his first Leicester season? He's still a good passer. It's just I don't think he's got the same disguise levels as other players to sort of play those sort of through the line ones. He's a bit more sort of broadcasted with what he's going to do. I think his sort of those in sweeping passes on his right foot, and then again that ability to carry, which has been so important. I think those two things is the best way of utilising Fofana as a sort of a progressor because he has got good progressive qualities. This team clearly needs to destroy her. I wouldn't go for a destroying set defensive midfielder. I think Casado and Lavia give you more than enough destroying capabilities. I think if anything, I'd be looking to fill out other areas of the pitch with physicality. So a Dorgu option, not to say he starts over Kukurea, but an option like Dorgu, a box striker, and then maybe another central centre or like a right centre back again with that sort of extra capacity to like physical capacity. But I wouldn't be doing it in here. Again, at Ugachukwu, if you really need it, you've got one in the squad in that sense when he's back. Oh, you meant Colwell, yeah. Nice. His passing's unreal, man. Pre-season, early season, people were complaining that we didn't press enough or press effectively. Those complaints have evaporated, partly because Augusto's working the 8. 100% money, Mike. He gets it. 100% you understand the counter-pressing brilliance of Gusto. If this role is going to be Reece James, it's better to go ahead and let the team gain experience in these specific roles as well. I'm assuming you mean with Gusto, and yeah, that's the thing. Once Reece is ready, you'll see more minutes for him. And I think actually, when he came on for that 10 minutes against Arsenal, we're starting to see maybe he'll get drip fed those minutes. Maybe he'll get more minutes in this role, sort of as that right centre back, but then he'll get some minutes in some games in this role until his fitness is really sort of been tested over the course of the season. If we're talking added physicality in the team, I still dream of Leao. Leao's a joke, but that would be crazy. Neto on the right, Leao on the left, in terms of just sheer 1v1 threat. That would be crazy, but it's probably not going to happen. Which would you suggest? I really like the gamekeeper we have online, Mike Penders. Yeah, I hadn't seen much of him, but he looks top from what I have seen since he joined. Who would I say? Chevalier would have been my guy before Jorgensen, but now I think you've almost capped out. So I think if anything now, I think you wait for Jorgensen and Penders. I think you see out the rest of this season with Sanchez in goal. Or you just go to Jorgensen now and let him get the minutes. So either one. And then I think next season you really make the decision. One, is Jorgensen good enough? Two, how quickly is Mike Penders going to be good enough? And can you get rid of Sanchez? I think they're the three things that you look at next year. But I think for the rest of this year, I think you just stick with it. As much as people are sort of annoyed about it, I think it would cause more havoc. I think we just stay with it for now. With the idea of things changing. And like I say, the one thing I would be okay with is from like say January onwards, if there's a few more sort of poor performances in the Christmas period for Sanchez, just throw Jorgensen in. Throw him in, get the benefits out of him that you can, and try and iron out those few kinks that he does have defensively, shot stopping wise. In some areas, again, more so parrying things out. I think the club made a mistake in buying KDH. Don't know if it's a suggestion from Maresca. Apparently, it definitely wasn't a suggestion from Maresca. That's what Maresca said. He didn't ask for him. I did, like I said at the time, I thought he was a floor raiser. I thought he was going to help with the integration period for Maresca, but without growing him like within a click of a finger, he actually wasn't even needed for that. But that's what he could have been useful for. So that at the time, it was like you could reserve some judgment, thinking, okay, that makes some sense to replace Gallagher with another man, another sort of body who gives some similar qualities, and he's familiar in the system. You'd be instantly outgrown him. So he's going to be a tricky one. Apparently, yeah, I've seen the tar link, but apparently that's sort of not true. From what I've read other things since, and I wouldn't mind tar, but I do think there's other better options. I think when you've already got Toss in on a free, I think you sort of okay at the minute in there. I think if you're going to go for another defender, I think it just needs to be the exact profile you're after. I think Tar adds experience. He definitely adds qualities. Tar is top level, and there's a reason a lot of teams were in for him, and still are in for him. But I think you could probably go without. You could. I hope Maresca becomes more brave with his tactical tweaks. he should always set us up in a manner to counteract that specific team. I think he does, to be fair. I think, if anything, maybe, like, I mean, Palace, complete different game plan, and it should have worked. Like, the game, we coached a win, and we didn't take our chances. I think we've seen really good tactical tweaks from Maresca. I think a few times in the last few games, he could have been slightly braver in terms of making quicker subs in attack in one of these sort of 5 positions. But I think other than that, I'm quite happy with his sort of versatility. Do you think we could adopt a single pivot midfield diamond and include another forward? Not out of possession, no. Right, that leads me into it because I have been saying, you forgot to read my chat, which one? I feel like we don't play a lot to the wingers, always play through the midfield. Yeah, I think often we do need to see Cole. Cole does it when he gets the ball quite a bit. He tries to put that switch out, and Casado's done it quite a few times, sort of here to here. And again, that's something you get more of when Enzo's in the team than when he's not in the team. So 100%, that's something we should do more. Get the play out wide quicker so you can isolate your fullback quicker. Last thing we're going to do today, we've got 10 minutes until I end the stream. First, I'm going to refresh, then we're going to do our Leicester team because it sort of talks about what somebody just mentioned. We're on 40 likes, we need 10 more to hit 50. We're going to do this Leicester team, and then after I've done this Leicester team, hopefully we've hit 50 likes. So take a drink, do the Leicester team, and then we'll check back, and hopefully by the hour mark, we've got 50 likes. So if you haven't already, smash the like button. Okay. Right, yeah, so this is sort of going off of what this is, having like a single pivot midfield. Let's say Lavia and Enzo. So Enzo arriving back from Argentina. Yes, Casado's doing the same, but let's just go out on the whim that Casado is fit enough and he makes it back and he can play. Enzo isn't deemed ready. Lavia's not deemed fit because of his injury. Let's say neither of these two can play. Okay, so they're out of the picture. What team would I play against? What do you call them? Leicester. I think we could see. This could be Sancho or Mudryk. I think. Oh, where is he? Right. I think we could see this with. Wait. Possibly that. That's what I think we could see. And that would be a solo pivot. The idea would then be Reece inverts alongside him. And yes, this is so that Cole can stay central. You could do it the other way. Kukurea inverts, Reece stays, but that way it means Fofana's central. So it depends what take you want to, like what you want to sort of give up. Which means you get the double pocket players here. The problem would be they have to work hard backwards, and this is where that is not an arrow. Have to work hard backwards to converge on the ball with these. This is your counter pressers in the middle of the park. So that's where it needs to. They're going to need to be active, and I think Felix has really improved on this year. I think he's been really good at winning his duels. I think he's worked incredibly hard, especially when he loses the ball. He does work very hard to win it back. I think Felix actually against Leicester could show something that this can work. That you can get double pocket players in the team, but Felix has enough energy and enough high intensity work rate to do this job and converge backwards in the counter press. And I think he can do that to a very high level. So I would like to see this and love to see that continuation of sort of aggression and tenacity from Felix to add that extra counter press in the middle of the park. They did say Casado might not even make it, but I'm assuming at least one of Casado or Enzo will play. I think that even if they only play, say one plays 60, the other plays 30, I can't see neither of them playing. So you could even say that's Enzo, but then the problem with that is at possession, that is very, 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 very light. So let's just assume Casado starts. This happens after every international. Chelsea need to find a way to get them in earlier flight. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, especially when your £200 million midfielders are both South American. It is tough. What about KDH over Felix? This could work as well. Again, for that sort of little bit more defensive quality. And again, it could be something that Maresca does just for a bit of balance. But I would like to see Felix trusted for a game and almost given that because he's been really good in his Conference League games. So I would want to almost throw him that opportunity and see if he takes it and grasps onto it with that same intensity he's been playing at. And yeah, it is where he was playing last season, KDH. Enzo would easily beat the press. Do you mean if he's deeper? Like the Leicester press? Yeah, very true. Very true. So that was the team we went into, because we got a few minutes left of this stream. Out of 10, if this was the team that we went into at the weekend, out of 10, what would you rate that team? In terms of that exact team face. Oh no, hang on. It would be Sanchez in goal, so I'll put Sanchez back as well. Out of 10, what are you rating that team? I'm going to refresh the stream, see what the likes are at. Still 40. Slacking. We need 10 more. 10 more. Really quickly, 10 more. I'll read through the chat in 2 minutes. We're going to let the chat quickly build up to see what your thoughts are on this team. Out of 10, what you would rate it. And leave a like, as we've got a few more minutes before we before we end the stream. In my opinion, if we get a Nana type midfielder next to Casado, he will go to another level. Possibly, but the same could have been said about Enzo at the time, and I do think having both. I think like Casado's been so good. I think Casado's doing everything so well that I think it's just, and I think him and Lavia work really well as well in certain games. So, Karen Blueberry Hall, wow, yeah, it could very well turn out to be a costly mistake. Dewsbury Hall, it could. Personally, if Maresca keeps playing Madueke and Sanchez, he'll be the only one to blame if we get bad results. I don't think there's much other choice in goal. And like, I know Jorgensen's there, but at least until December, I don't think that's a decision you make so early on in your reign. So I wouldn't be so thinking about that right now. Would be worried about the opposition work rate of those two tens. Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I think Felix has definitely improved in that sense this season. But I hear it. So 7 out of 10, I get it. What was the one thing you said Felix has improved on the most? That is it. Intensity. I think genuinely, whenever he loses the ball now, he's sort of quick ground covering in like really quick, sort of short, intense bursts to win the ball back and just be part of the sort of. He might not always win it, but even just to converge on the ball, say he's sort of forcing that ball backwards and then Casado steps in and wins it. But he's done his job in terms of helping to make that a 2v1 scenario in there. I think Felix has been better at that this season than I've ever seen him in his career. So that's a big thing. Keir Doyle. I didn't see anyone say that, but Felix definitely does bring shots. He's a high shot volume player. High shot volume. 10 out of 10 for you. Really want to see the extra creativity against lower opposition teams? Absolutely. Still wouldn't start Mudryk, especially with that midfield. Defensively, he's too much of a liability. So yeah, and that's another thing. Realistically, you very likely you could just be that wing pairing that works, and you just go with Mudryk and Sancho from the bench, because that way you have a right footer and a left footer, and then you still have two left footers on the right, but still. Let's say, well, that can be Sancho. You could do a few different things with it. No way Jorgensen's worse than Sanchez. I refuse. I'm not saying that, but I just think at this point you stick with it, and I think you leave it until the Christmas period's over. Feel like Sancho Felix would be a better left-hand side utilising their associated play. 100%. I did put this on when I tweeted a team. I did have Sancho in instead of Mudryk. It's more so the reason I just put Mudryk on this one was just that I think he also deserves to play. I think he's been in good form. We read that one. That team is excellent. Only worries a Sanchez Bozo moment. 100% Victor. Team is almost exactly what I've been calling for tactically against smaller teams. Lovely to see that, Money Mike. Wingers could interchange. Yeah, 100%. 100% they could interchange. To fair, the one time we played two pocket players, we scored 8 goals. Yeah, it was against Noah, but yeah, true, Kelvin, true. Mudryk can easily be our left winger. His passing and vision is class. The talent is so obvious with Mudryk. It's just getting him up to speed and confident and everything coming together as one at the right time. But the talent's clear. Felix also has a good aerial game and can drop into the box. Yeah, Felix has got so much to like about him, and the more that I'm seeing of him in the team, and the more I love him in the second unit. I love how he sort of comes in for Palmer, the shot volume he brings, a little bit of added intensity, which I think Maresca's actually sort of bringing out of him because he's working hard to get into the team. I think Felix could end up being one of those ones where sort of shocks a few people and how important he ends up being in the next 12 months. Conference League games, Shanez looks clear of Jorgensen to me at least. Oh, Sanchez. Yeah, he's not been great in the Conference League games, but again, nothing too sort of major from Jorgensen that's been poor. I think he's been okay. I think both keepers have been okay. I think they've both had a couple of odd moments. And I think just get through this period first. Mudryk in big pitches flourishes. I mean, yeah, when you've got that athletic capacity that he does, very tough not to. On that note, we are going to wrap up the stream there because we have been going for an hour. Going to do one last refresh, get as close to 50 as possible. We're on 42. I'm going to leave it 30 seconds before this stream ends. 49 people watching in this. If you haven't liked, please do drop one. Try and get this to at least 50 likes. That would be amazing before this stream ends. Any last words from everybody in the chat? Because this is going to be 30 seconds before we end the stream. Do you think the next fixtures are ideal for Tryon Jorgensen in the PL? No, because I think as well he's going to get his run in the other competitions. So I think keep it the same for now and then assess it over that period in a long period where both players are basically playing once a week. And then it's also less of a sort of intense time to change things. The way Felix goes into the box, him and Palmer in the pockets, it would be brilliant. It would be brilliant having him and Palmer in the pockets together. That is one thing for sure, especially against those lower block sides. Neto and Mudryk as wingers will only thrive with a box dominant striker. I've said this about Neto, you'll get a lot more out of him with a box dominant striker than without. And he's already showing really good levels, so imagine with Sanchez very poor, you say. Play Tosin as central centre back in possession, that could allow a pivot of Kukre and Moy. Yeah, but I think Fofana's been excellent as well, so I wouldn't want to drop him. Victor says, thank you for the stream, Connor. Thank you very much. Great stream as always. Thank you, Kelvin. Everybody, thank you so much for joining. We're going to refresh for the last time. Let's hope it's close to 50. We're at 44. If you haven't already, drop a like on your way out to try and get it to 50 for when this ends. I'm going to cut off there. Make sure you're here. I think it's either Saturday or Sunday. I will do a review as quickly as possible. It'll either be Saturday after the game or it'll be Sunday during the day that I'll upload my things we learned from Chelsea versus Leicester. Let me know what you think the score predictions will be of that on your way out. Drop a like and I'll see you guys next time.